Hey there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have part one of a two-part series that I call Let's Make 8, and this one is featuring the October 2018 Simon Says Stamp card kit called Sketched Flowers. As of filming, this kit is actually sold out, but Simon Says Stamp also has all the items for individual sale if you're interested. So let's take a look at what's inside the kit. These kits always come with candy, which comes in very handy in the middle of crafting. It also has a Tim Holtz Alcohol Lift ink pad, and it has 3 alcohol inks. I'm telling you, these kits are always so worth the money, and I love how you get to try new things with each of the kits, it seems. So it has Sunset Orange, Stream, and Sunshine Yellow. I already have those colors, but it doesn't matter. I'm excited. It also comes with 3 exclusive Gina K Designs foil cards, and they're very pretty. I use a couple of them throughout these 2 parts. And it also comes with the Simon Says Stamp 86-pound Yupo original white paper. I'm super stoked about that because I think it has a better price point than the other Yupo paper that is out there. So I'm excited to give that a try. It also has a 12-pack of Simon Says Stamp exclusive Gina K Fancy foils. So it has 6 colors and 2 of each color, and they're beautiful. Some of them are holographic and some of them are plain colors, but they're all just really pretty. So there's a lot there. I didn't even use half of what came in there, so I have plenty left over for other projects in the future. It also has the Simon Says Stamp Sketched Flowers. And this is a gorgeous stamp set. It's 6 by 8 and it has so many beautiful sentiments. I can see using this stamp set a lot. It also has the idea sheet, which it always comes with, and it has 3 pieces of cardstock in bright yellow, peacock, and burnt orange. For card number 1, I am going to do some foiling with the fancy foils and those foil cards that came in the kit. So I'm kind of trimming apart one of those cards, just to kind of trim it down a little bit because I want to fit it on top of a card and back it with some stuff before I get too crazy with the foiling. And so by trimming it down, I also plan to do some different color foiling. Now, I will say I don't know if I'm doing something terribly wrong or if I'm just not good at it or if I don't really know what I'm doing, but I don't feel like I got as good of a result with the foils as I wish I could have. So this first one, so I cut one down to cover one of the flowers, just a small chunk. And I'm using a laminator that I got very inexpensively. It's an Amazon brand, and I got it obviously on Amazon. Very inexpensive price point. I got it this summer for a different project that I was doing, and I thought I'd give it a shot with this. And I don't know if it's my laminator. I don't think it is because I think, it's a laminator. So that my first go through, it worked really well. I didn't show you because I kind of half times forget I'm on screen, but I peeled off that and it worked really well. The second one, it foiled all right. I don't know if it's because I already had a little bit of heat on these and I probably should have waited a little bit in between, but now I'm going on to trying some gold so I can cover up the rest of those pieces. So I want the leaves to be covered as well. And I even tried doing a shim, and that worked a little bit better. But then I realized as I was doing a shim for another one, or for the sentiment, it didn't work as well. So I took the shim out and it worked better. So I've got some of that burnt orange that I have folded, or I have scored at 5.5 inches to make it a top folding A2 size card. And I'm going to start backing those pieces just with some black cardstock that I have in my stash, and I'll trim those down. This is a very simple card, minus the foiling. And I'm just backing those with the black, and then I'm going to adhere those using my Tombow permanent adhesive. Getting that fairly centered, and I will put down the other piece, and then I end up having some of that black because I forgot that this was just the length of the card, so I take that and I trim off the excess, which is just the black and a little bit of the white. And then I will use some of my black Nuvo, my ebony Nuvo drops as a final bit of embellishment for card number 1. And I like the way it turned out. I thought it turned out really pretty trying to do some different colors. So for card number 2, I actually lump 2 and 3 together because I end up making a bunch of backgrounds, and I use that alcohol lift ink as well to make these cards. So I'm just going to show you all the backgrounds that I made, and I won't use all of these on these two cards. I will use these in future cards as well, but oh, I was having so much fun, and I really like this Yupo paper by Simon Says Stamp. It worked out really nicely. I'm just going to keep playing with what I have left of it and just going from there. So I used all three colors, the Sunset Orange, the Stream, and the Sunshine Yellow, trying to be a little bit careful not to get the Stream and the Sunset Orange to mix too much, because you will get brown. I mean, they're complementary colors, so you don't want to go too crazy there. So I did do that. And in one of them that I made, because actually I made another background, but you don't get to see it because I forgot to turn on the camera, and I used some lettuce alcohol ink as well. That was from my stash, but I just did a Stream and a lettuce background for one of the cards. So I also decided to take some of that foil because, as you all know, if you've watched any of these videos by now, if you let it get a little bit tacky, just let it dry a little bit and still have some tack, you can take your foils, those fancy foils, and stick those over the top, and they will stick to the parts that are tacky. And it ends up being such a beautiful effect. One of the things I have said before about alcohol inks is you can try and probably never get the same background ever. They always react a little bit differently, and they move differently. And I was using my air adapter as well as my air compressor. And so now I'm making another background. And on this one, I am just doing the yellows and the oranges. That's all I want in this one, because I have some plans for this one for some cards in the future. But I'm showing it to you now. I may show it in the second part because I end up using this one for cards in the second part. Or I might not, but because, it's just moving those alcohol inks all around just to get a background. I don't know. I could watch it all day, but I don't know how you guys feel. I love how these things mix. They're so, so pretty. And then I'll set that aside to dry a little bit after I slide it into some of the alcohol ink that's on my glass mat. And then I will grab some foil again. I'm using red this time, and I'm going to stick that to the tacky parts. I just love how it does that. And in parts, sometimes you wish it would stick to other parts, and sometimes it just, I don't know. I love the effect every time. It's so pretty. So I keep doing that, just trying to get it to stick all over. And that'll finish off that background as well. So I did all those backgrounds. And this is the background you didn't get to see. But I stuck this in my stamp platform. And I'm just using one of my corners to try, because that stamp is so big. And I want it to go all across that background. So I'm using the alcohol lift ink, and I'm putting that all over that stamp, and I'll move my little corner, my misty corner, and stamp that down. And then I will pick it up, and I will put another piece of cardstock, just some Neenah cardstock, Classic Crest, and I am going to stamp what I took onto that cardstock. And this is why I end up having cards 2 and 3. So pretty. It's very subtle there, but in real life you can really see it, and it looks so nice. So I'm going to take these two backgrounds, and I'll end up making cards with them. But first, with that alcohol lift ink, you want to take a paper towel and you just kind of dab up what's on there, because you don't want it to be too thick. And then once you've got it all dabbed up, then you buffer it in, and your image just pops after that. It's so pretty. I can see doing a lot with these. So I'll trim down that first panel so that it can fit onto an A2 size card. And I am going to use, because I already trimmed down the other one, I have a piece of, that is just some Simon Says Stamp backing paper, and I have that scored at 5.5 inches, and that one will end up being a fairly simple card because I don't add a lot of embellishment. And then that is the Peacock cardstock, and then I will take the remnants from the Yupo paper that I trimmed down, because I save everything with that because it's so pretty. And now I will stamp my sentiment. So I'm just using some Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink, and I will stamp my sentiment right above, and then I'm going to start adhering everything down after I stamp my other sentiment for card number 3. And I did that with the embossing ink from Simon Says Stamp and the white ultrafine embossing powder. And then I'll heat set my powder, and then I will trim down my sentiment once that has cooled down a little bit. And I want to have a flag banner on that, so I will eventually trim that down, but I haven't quite decided yet. So here I'm just going to take some Tombow Mono Multi adhesive, and I will adhere those little bits, those leftover pieces, I will adhere those to the front of my card, because I think then it all ties together. And then I will take that same adhesive all over the back, and I will stick my panel down to my card base. I just love how that turned out. Very simple. And here's where I will trim down and give a flag banner to my Sending Hugs sentiment. And then I'll start adhering all my pieces. And I'll use that same adhesive that I did before, but I will use foam tape. Even though you don't see it, I end up using foam tape on my sentiment just to give it a little bit of something. And that'll end up finishing off cards 2 and 3. I love how they turned out. For card number 4, I am going to go ahead and stamp some of those single flower images along with the leaves onto some Express It cardstock using some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. These two happen to be my favorite combination when it comes to Copic coloring, so this is what I plan to use. So I'm just going to stamp those images down onto that using one of those big round flowers and 2 of those flowers with the petals. And then I'm going to use 3 of the leaves. And stamp 3 of those out. And then I will go on to Copic coloring. I am doing some very simple Copic coloring, and I've put all of the colors up on the screen. I tried to match them as best I could to the colors of the alcohol inks. And so some of these combinations are a little bit different for me. So I'm using BG57, and then I'm going to shadow that with BG49. And like I said, not a combo I probably would have chosen, but I ended up loving this for the leaves. So I will put this in my memory banks of potential leaf colors. And then I moved on to color the big round one with Y15 and just did a little shadowing. And there's really no rhyme or reason to where I'm putting those darker colors. I'm just kind of sticking that down. And that's Y38. And then I blended that out. And for my leaves, I actually screwed up. My petals here. I meant to use a completely different color, but I used YR18, which was a little darker than what I originated, and so I had to grab some E07, which I ended up really liking this combo too. So that was my flowers. And now moving on to the assembling the card, I have some of that Simon Says Stamp 110 pound cardstock, and I'm scoring that at 5.5 inches to make it a top folding A2 size card, and I'm going to use one of the backgrounds that I did earlier. So I'm going to trim this down, and waste not, want not when it comes to these backgrounds because they're so pretty. I am trimming off what I want on the upper part of my card, and then I'm going to trim down about 2.5 inches for my bottom half, and I will save the other chunk for something else. So this way I'm not wasting any of that Yupo paper and that pretty background. And I'm adhering that using some Tombow adhesive, just some tape runner for both pieces. And I'm also going to do that for that white piece of cardstock as well, but I'm going to stamp my sentiment on that first. And I'm just going to use some of that Memento Tuxedo Black ink as well, and I'm stamping that in that upper corner because I'm going to layer those flowers around that a little bit. So I will adhere that using that same Tombow tape runner. It's a permanent adhesive and it works pretty well. And then I will use some Tombow Mono Multi adhesive for my leaves. I'm just sticking those down once I had the arrangement that I was kind of thinking. And then I'm going to end up using some foam tape for my flowers. I want those to be popped up just a little bit, but I'm going to put the leaves down first. Those are adhered right to the card base itself, right to the front. And once I've gotten that foam tape on the back of those, I will put the ones that are in the far back first. And then I'm going to actually end up taking the foam adhesive for the yellow flower and putting it directly onto the card base, because I thought that would just be easier. And then I'll use a little bit of that liquid adhesive on the sides to make sure that that flower is not going anywhere. And when I'm done with that, that'll finish off this card number 4. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the first 4 cards that I made using this card kit. I love knowing which one is your favorite card, so please put that in the comments down below if you feel so led to, and hit the like button if you like this video. And as always, thanks so much for stopping by.